Once upon a time, in a small town on the edge of a vast forest, there was a little girl named Lily, just 8 years old. Lily had deep blue eyes and blonde hair that danced in the wind whenever she went out to play on the cobblestone streets of her town. She lived with her parents, John and Margaret, in a modest little house that had seen better days. Time passed slowly in that quiet town, and the daily routine was marked by John's hard work as a carpenter and Margaret's tireless efforts to keep the home in order, despite their scarce resources. Lately, however, fortune had not been kind to the family. The tide of luck that once blessed them, allowing them to live comfortably, had slowly drifted away, like a boat floating out to sea without anyone noticing. Debts began to pile up, and as the months went by, what was once a warm, welcoming home became a place of constant worry. Winter was approaching, and the pantry, once full, now held only a few crumbs of bread and a little flour, barely enough to last a day or two. As young as she was, Lily was not naive. She noticed her parents' anxious whispers at night when they thought she was already asleep. She overheard their conversations about unpaid bills and the lack of work for John. Her parents tried to shield her from reality, but the shadows of worry were always present in their eyes. It was a cold, cloudy afternoon when Lily, hungry and tired of hearing her stomach growl, approached her parents, who were sitting at the kitchen table, staring pensively at the little food that remained. "Mom. Dad." Her voice was soft, almost as if she were apologizing for breaking the heavy silence. "When are we going to eat something?" Margaret, a woman with a usually kind expression, sighed. The exhaustion was evident in her features. Her eyes, once full of light, were now clouded with worry. John, sitting next to her, clenched his hands in nervousness. He desperately wanted to have an answer for his daughter, but, at that moment, all he felt was helplessness. "Sweetheart," Margaret began, her voice gentle but laden with sorrow. "We're doing our best, but today, unfortunately, we have nothing to give you." The silence that followed was thick, almost tangible. Lily, with her characteristic sweetness, didn't push further. Though her stomach was empty, she knew her parents' hearts were even more troubled. So, without saying another word, she put on her worn-out coat, which barely protected her from the cold, and walked out the door, deciding to take a walk through the town, hoping to shake off the heaviness she felt inside. The small town where she lived was made up of stone houses and narrow streets. In autumn, the biting wind would dance through the alleys, lifting dry leaves and carrying with it the distant scent of the trees from the nearby forest. The houses, with their closed windows and locked doors, seemed as weary as their inhabitants. It was a town where time seemed to have stopped, and the weight of hard days was reflected in the faces of everyone Lily passed on her way. Walking alone, Lily followed the street she lived on to its end, where it bordered the dense forest. The trees there were ancient, their roots seeming to intertwine with the earth as if they were part of an old secret, kept for generations. There was something mysterious and magical about that place, something that always drew her in, though her parents warned her never to venture too far. In the heart of the forest, there was an old stone fountain, one that looked as though it had been carved by hands long forgotten. The town's children used to tell stories about that fountain, saying it was magical. They said that if you threw in a coin and made a wish with all your heart, the fountain would grant it. But of course, these were just stories, or at least that's what Lily believed. She didn't have a single coin to test the legend. Still, there was something about that day that made her feel a stronger pull toward the fountain. As if a soft and distant voice were calling her, she walked toward it. The gentle sound of dripping water was the only noise to be heard. The fountain was covered in moss, and the fallen leaves around it showed that few people had visited it recently. Lily knelt by the edge of the fountain, staring at the reflection of her face in the still water. With a deep sigh, she closed her eyes and made a wish. She had no coin to toss, but she put all the sincerity of her heart into that silent wish. "If only I could help my mommy and daddy," she thought, as a single tear rolled down her cheek. When she opened her eyes, she noticed something that made her hold her breath. At the bottom of the fountain, something was glowing. At first, she thought it was just a reflection of the sun breaking through the clouds, but the glow remained, pulsing and golden, as if the fountain itself was trying to show her something. Curious, Lily reached her hand into the cold water and plunged her fingers to the bottom of the fountain. What she pulled out left her speechless. It was a gold coin. A coin so bright and shiny it seemed to have come straight out of a legend. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she looked around, as if expecting someone to appear and claim the treasure. But there was no one. She was alone with the coin in her hands, and the weight of that discovery left her stunned. With her heart racing, Lily stood in silence, not knowing what to do next. Then, as if the fountain was responding to her wish, more coins began to appear at the bottom, shining even more brilliantly. It was as if the magical fountain was offering Lily a once-in-a-lifetime chance, an opportunity to change her life and her parents' lives forever. She took as many coins as her small pockets could carry and ran home, her heart pounding with excitement. When she reached her humble house, she burst through the door, nearly tripping over the entrance rug. "Mom! Dad!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the small room. "Look what I found." John and Margaret, who had been sitting at the table, immediately stood up, surprised by their daughter's energy. Margaret's eyes were fixed on Lily, while John moved closer, worried. "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked, kneeling beside his daughter. Lily, with a wide smile on her face, shoved her hands into her pockets and pulled out the gold coins, letting them fall onto the table with a clink that filled the room with an almost magical sound. Margaret brought her hand to her mouth in shock, while John, astonished, picked up one of the coins and examined it closely. Where did you get this?" he asked, incredulous, as his fingers caressed the surface of the coin, feeling its weight and shine, something he had never seen in his entire life. Lily, her eyes shining with excitement, told them about the magical fountain in the heart of the forest, explaining every detail with the excitement only a child who had just discovered hidden treasure could have. John and Margaret, though skeptical at first, couldn't deny the reality before them. The coins were real, and with them, the hope that had vanished from their lives slowly began to return. In the days that followed, the lives of little Lily and her family began to change in ways they could never have imagined. With the gold coins Lily had found, John was able to pay off all the debts that had weighed heavily on his shoulders. The sense of relief was palpable. The burden that time and hardship had placed on their family finally seemed to be lifting. The house, which had once been filled with worry and sadness, now hummed with renewed energy. For the first time in months, John felt light, as if the world was no longer so cruel and indifferent. With the coins, Margaret was able to fill the pantry with foods she hadn't seen in a long time. Fresh fruits, meat, bread, and all kinds of delicacies that had once been distant dreams were now part of their everyday life. Lily marveled at the transformation of her home. What had once been a simple and modest house, with bare, cold walls, was now filled with warmth, laughter, and delicious aromas. The emptiness that had once filled her stomach and heart had been replaced by a sense of abundance and gratitude. Still, despite all the new comfort, Lily continued to think about the fountain. Every day, after finishing her daily chores and before the sun set, she would return to the forest, following the same path through the ancient trees until she reached the magical fountain. There, she would kneel by the crystal-clear water and take only a few coins at a time. She was careful. Although her family was now out of danger, Lily didn't want to draw attention to what she had found. The gold coins were a secret she cherished, as if the fountain had become her silent confidant. However, as the days passed, Lily began to notice something strange. The water in the fountain, which had always been clear and sparkling, now seemed a bit murkier, as if it were losing its vitality. The fountain still produced coins, but each time Lily retrieved them, the golden glow of the coins seemed a little less bright. The fountain, which once seemed alive, now emitted a sense of weariness, as if it was working beyond its limits. Worried, Lily began to reduce her visits to the fountain, taking fewer coins. She felt that something deeper was happening, something she didn't fully understand. Every time she left the forest, she looked back, as if the fountain was trying to tell her something her words couldn't yet express. One particularly cold and cloudy afternoon, when the leaves of the trees swayed uneasily in the wind, Lily decided to return to the fountain once more, but with a sense of unease in her heart. As she approached, something unusual happened. In the place where there had once been only silence and the gentle sound of water, Lily saw a figure waiting for her by the fountain. It was a woman of ethereal appearance, with golden hair cascading over her shoulders and eyes of deep green, which seemed to carry the wisdom of millennia. She wore an emerald green cloak that blended perfectly with the forest surroundings, and her presence radiated an uncommon calm, yet there was also something mysterious about her. "You're Lily, aren't you?" the woman asked, her voice soft but firm, like the whisper of leaves in the wind. Lily, both frightened and intrigued, nodded slowly. She had never seen this woman before, and something about her presence felt almost magical. "I've been watching you, dear, and I know you've been using the fountain's gifts," the woman continued, with a small smile on her lips. Lily remained silent for a moment, trying to understand what was happening. She had kept the fountain's secret safe, but now, someone seemed to know everything. I just wanted to help my parents," Lily replied sincerely, her heart tight with uncertainty. "They had nothing, and the fountain gave us what we needed." The woman nodded, her smile now touched with understanding. "The fountain is magical, Lily, and its generosity is endless. But only if used wisely. What you don't know is that it lives. The heart of the fountain pulses with every sincere wish, with every coin given. But the magic that sustains it also has its limits. Every coin you take, while it helps, also takes a little of the fountain's life force." Lily, surprised, looked at the fountain's water, which now seemed even murkier than before. She had never thought about the consequences of her actions. All she wanted was to help her family, but now she realized there was an invisible cost. "What can I do?" Lily asked, her voice trembling, fear starting to grip her chest. The woman looked at the fountain with affection, as if she had known its soul for a long time, then turned her gaze back to Lily. "You've already done more than enough for your family," she said. "The true wealth isn't in the gold coins, but in the love and gratitude you share. The gold from the fountain isn't infinite, but the happiness and contentment your family has found are. If you keep taking the coins, the fountain will one day dry up completely, and its magic will disappear forever." Lily felt a pang of sadness and guilt. The fountain had been so generous to her, and she hadn't thought to protect it in return. But now that she knew the truth, she knew what she had to do. "I won't take any more coins," Lily promised, her heart filled with determination. "I'll let the fountain rest." The woman smiled, this time with a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "That's the right choice, Lily. The fountain will continue to exist, and in times of great need, it will be able to help others, just as it helped you. But only with the proper respect and care." Lily, still processing everything she had learned, watched as the woman walked away, disappearing among the trees, as if she were part of the forest itself. Her presence had been brief, but her words would echo forever in Lily's heart. In the days that followed, her family's life continued to prosper, not because of the gold the fountain had given them, but because of the love, hard work, and gratitude for each small moment of happiness. Lily never returned to the fountain in search of coins again. She knew that the true treasure was already in her hands, in the smiles of her parents and the peace that now reigned in their home. The fountain, in turn, returned to its former brilliance. It remained there, hidden in the heart of the forest, waiting for another soul in need to find it, not out of greed, but from the sincerity of a pure wish. And so, the fountain's magic would continue, silent and eternal, helping those who knew how to respect its mystery. Lily grew up, carrying with her the lesson she had learned in that enchanted forest. She always knew that true wealth wasn't in material things, but in the heart and the bonds she shared with those she loved. And it was this wisdom that guided her life, making her not just a girl who found gold, but a girl who discovered the true value of life,